Thank you for joining me today. My name is Lisa Brown, and I am the Assistant Director for NYESS, the New York Employment Services System. NYESS is your resource for all things related to employment. We are implementing a learning community and resource library on our YouTube channel and welcome you to subscribe and view the materials that we have posted. As part of this resource library, we are posting success stories, and these stories highlight the journey of individuals through the navigation of diagnoses, state and federal systems, employment, and other challenges. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Pat Feinberg, who has agreed to share her journey and success story with us. Welcome, Pat. Thank you for joining me today to talk about your journey and your ultimate success.
Hi, I'm Pat Feinberg, and I'm the benefits practitioner and peer educator at the Center for Rehab and Recovery, and that's now part of In Unity for Alliance.
And one of the things that we want to talk about today is your success story and your journey through some challenges, ups and downs that have happened. And we're going to start this interview. So we're going to transition to our still photos and then begin our interview. Okay, thank you very much, Pat. I understand that you grew up in the Bronx. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, I grew up in the Bronx, and I attended Bronx High School of Science. I later received my BA in psychology and early childhood from Hunter College in Manhattan in 1974. A few years later, I received my master's degree in special ed from Hunter Grad School. An interesting note to add is that my college graduation was actually held in Madison Square Garden.
Wow, those are some very significant degrees. And education is such a critical component of a person's life, and being a teacher helps shape the lives of others. From someone who's not from New York, it seems like an incredible experience to have the graduation ceremony at Madison Square Garden. Can you describe how that was, how you felt about that, and then your life following graduation?
It was tremendous, and at the time I was just about on the final month of pregnancy with my daughter, so I had to be escorted up to the stage. So it was coming together of two things, like completing my education and about to deliver my daughter.
Wow, that's amazing. So what happened after graduation? Tell me a little bit about your story from that point.
Yeah, well, kind of fast forward, we lived in a nice community in Queens called Forest Hills, and I was 33 years old, married. I had two small children, and we lived in a lovely co-op, and I had a strong network of friends and a meaningful teaching career. And I was teaching preschool, and I'm particularly fond of providing the first introduction to school environment for the young preschoolers. In addition, I offered a cooking class for children at the Central Queens Y, and it was a full and happy life.
That sounds just about perfect. What happened next?
It was for a while. However, can you imagine that one day all of this is taken away from you right before your eyes? Well, I don't have to imagine it because it happened to me. This is when depression pulled me into its deep, dark abyss, and I lost everything that was near and dear to me. Although most of my life was centered around the helping profession, a preschool teacher and a special ed teacher, due to a bout of depression, I found myself on the other side of the equation, and I was the one needing help.
That must have been very difficult for you and during that period of time.
Yes, it was. Um, Having weathered that immediate period of crisis, I was working and I took a refresher course over the summer since it had been a long time that had elapsed from graduate school. And I felt empowered with this knowledge of new techniques. However, each day was more challenging than the one before. There was a lot of pressure to raise reading and math scores within the school system. And by the fourth month, I had to prioritize my health over the job.
That must have been extremely difficult for you, and as one more area was being affected by your diagnosis, your career.
Yes, it was really a tough time for me. And in fact, for the following year, I felt like a failure because this was my field of study and I had received my degree in special education. But the lesson I learned was that sometimes a job is not the right fit. And I realized I can still use my teaching skills in another venue.
Were you able to find the supports that you needed during this time?
Yes, I was able to find a treatment team that provided the supports. Um, they were professionals, including medical doctors, social workers, psychologists, and in addition, I took medication. Um, the group of professionals took a team approach for my treatment, and I was an equal partner.
That's terrific. Supports are very important within the recovery process.
Yes, and a pivotal time in my life. A year later, Elma Vasquez, formerly of HHC, asked me to join a team of dialogue trainers. And Mr. Vasquez helped me create an inner dialogue, which validated the fact that people with disabilities are just like everybody else, searching for the meaning in their lives. We learned about advocacy and how to actively participate in our treatment plan. We practiced the art of telling our story, and I could talk about the ups and downs of bipolar disorder. So it gave me a sense of freedom. I could talk about my strengths and weaknesses. In the prior job, I hadn't disclosed my disability, and it was hard to keep that secret. It was very anxiety producing.
Well, meeting with Elmer must have been very empowering for you.
Yes, it was. It gave me a sense of being able to give back in spite of everything that had happened to me.
Was it during this time that you also applied for Social Security benefits? And if so, what was that process like for you?
Right. My treatment team helped to set the paperwork in motion. SSA benefits. Generally, it takes 3 to 5 months to complete the application process to receiving the first benefit check. To expedite the process, you can go online and get started at www.socialsecurity.gov/apply for disability. I had a lot of support from staff to help me through this trying time of uncertainty, and certainly navigating Social Security to obtain benefits is an invasive, complex process. It's overwhelming to the individual, but the good news is that you don't have to do it alone. The support staff, in addition to someone who's navigated the system themselves, can make all the difference in allaying one's fears. If you're a person who's navigated the system before, it will be beneficial to translate the process in user-friendly terms and break it down into small steps and walk through the process with the new applicant.
That's terrific that you had such good supports. Do you have any stories about receiving Social Security benefits that others might be able to learn from?
Yes, I can recall one specific day when my SSDI check didn't come in. And of course, I placed multiple calls to Social Security to discover what had happened. Despite having submitted forms on a timely basis, how could this have happened? I was working at the coalition when I received a letter saying that Social Security did not consider me disabled no, from a period of 5 years earlier. And they requested a payment with my American Express card of $36,000. And at this point, I was ready to stop working and give up.
Oh my gosh, $36,000 in an overpayment? What did you do?
Well, in the first place, before your benefit check is terminated, you're supposed to receive a letter from Social Security explaining that what was going to happen. I never received that letter. Fortunately, I had the coalition team supporting me. I remember a colleague took me out to lunch that day, and the next thing I knew, a plan of action evolved step by step, and we unraveled this issue. I was trained by Cornell University and the coalition to keep all my correspondence and payroll stubs, my receipts for co-pays for medication, statements and paid bills from my therapist to be used as IRWs. And also my subsidy was already in place at the coalition because I had disclosed I was bipolar. My subsidy included the fact that I needed a flexible schedule to make my doctor's appointments and needed extra time to complete my work. And in addition, needed help from my colleagues as well as the staff of Venture House. And Venture House is a clubhouse that offers help for its members to be able to maintain a job. And Venture House is a clubhouse that believes work is an integral part of recovery. Within a month's time, the issue was resolved, the documentation was accepted, and the decision was reversed. My SSDI checks resumed. However, it doesn't happen this quickly for everyone. I had supports helping me walk through the process.
That's amazing. Just a month before it was all worked out. It sounds like you had a tremendous amount of support in getting this SSA issue resolved. Given this experience, do you have any words of wisdom about SSA?
Yes, to report your
Hmm.
wages and to open and review all the correspondence Social Security sends you. And it would be really a good thing to put all the papers into one notebook, a benefits notebook, so that it's all in one place. And you have a file of all the letters and keep all the receipts for IRWE expenses and documentation for subsidies. Because when you get that letter, sometimes you have a short deadline to present all the information for your case. Sometimes people don't even want to open the letters they receive because it makes people anxious. But if you don't open them, you may miss the deadline to reapply and lose your benefits because you didn't respond in a timely fashion. So it really pays to be proactive and have those papers in one place instead of having to react.
That is great advice. Do you have any examples about positive experiences that you've had since then?
Yes, one highlight I remember, I was doing a presentation on the Medicaid buy-in for working people with disabilities at the headquarters of PSCH, and everything had gone smoothly during the presentation. Afterwards, a case manager approached me and told me that he recalled me living in one of the placements in the community, and he was actually my case manager years earlier. So that was kind of one of those full circle moments to savor, and he was proud of my success.
That's terrific. You have really come a long way from needing supports to being able to provide supports again for others. You have some personal experience with Medicaid buy-in for working people with disabilities, right? Do you have any
Yes.
wisdom to share about that?
Yes, it's kind of like one of those best kept secrets, and the fact that it's called Medicaid buy-in, it kind of suggests you pay a premium, but it's been absolutely free since 2003, and I was one of the first people to sign up. And if I was working part-time and I had medications that were very costly, so my work wouldn't have even been viable if I couldn't have these medications. So, um, because of MBI, that great work incentive, it was possible.
That's great. And the MBI Working People with Disabilities program is a great way for people to go to work, earn a remarkable wage, and still maintain their Medicaid benefits. And in fact, there's going to be some changes in January of 2025 to increase some of those asset and income limits. So stay tuned for more information on that. Pat, you mentioned that you have also had personal experiences with IRWIs and subsidies. Can you tell us a little bit about these programs?
Yes, IRWIs are impairment-related work expenses, so they're items or services that a person needs to go to work. They're related to their disability, and they're paid for by the beneficiaries, so therefore not being reimbursed by insurance. So in this case, it could be a copay for medication. One example is I see a psychologist on a sliding scale, and she charges $20 a week. So that uh, translates to $80 a month that I could deduct from my countable wages. And that allows me to keep working and receiving the benefit amount as well, because it's reducing the wages. And it could be medications, doctor copays, music therapy, it's pet therapy, as long as you can make a case for it. Um, you can think out of the box.
That's
And
terrific.
and a subsidy is set up for the support you receive on the job, that you may receive more pay than the actual value of the services you perform. And my subsidy was provided by my employer, and I'm getting the same pay for doing a job just as someone else, and yet not being required to produce the same amount of work. And it also could include having a job coach on the job with you, or assistance performing your job duties. So it's like an accommodation above and beyond the scope of your job. And the flexibility allows you to make the medical appointments that are necessary.
That's very, oh, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
Yeah, and it's very helpful to keep all the subsidy documentation. Um, and that was really an important factor in resolving my overpayment with Social Security.
That's really important information about IRWs and subsidies and can really help people a lot if they are able to use those work incentives. Thank you for sharing your experience about those. How are you doing today?
Fine, I'm past full retirement age. I'm still working remotely on a modified schedule. Due to physical therapy appointments twice a week. I continue to attend trainings because there's still a lot to learn, and my passion is still there. I can still relate to the uncertainty and the fears of navigating a complex system, and I want to pass on what's been given to me so generously.
Thank you, Pat, for sharing your story with us. You've had quite a journey over the years, and it sounds like with supports in place and your own determination, you have been very successful. This success story has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. Please reach out to me if you have a success story that you would like to share. lisa.brown2@omh.ny.gov, or give me a call at 518-474-3358. Thank you for joining us today.